Welcome back. Tonight, we drift through the sleepy streets of lost cities of Europe. So wherever you are, however your day has been, you have nothing to do now but rest. There are no twists tonight, nothing to follow, nothing you need to remember in the morning. A city of sunken stone and forgotten paths, lying still beneath the weight of the earth. We'll drift slowly, in no hurry to be anywhere at all. If these journeys help you rest, you're welcome to follow along, but only if you'd like to. And if you're listening now, leave the name of your city and the time where you are. Wherever you're listening from, you're in good company tonight. So let yourself settle. Let your shoulders soften. And let your eyes close whenever they're ready. Breathe in slowly. And let it go. There's no need to stay awake for any of this. Just let the streets of lost cities of Europe come to you. The story of lost places often begins with a sudden quiet. In southern Italy, the sky above Pompeii darkened on a warm autumn day. The first signs of Mount Vesuvius waking were almost gentle. A light rain of grey pumice drifted down over the streets. This soft ash was not deadly on its own. It gave many people time to pack their things and walk away. You can imagine the crunch of light stones under their sandals as they left. But the mountain was not finished. Hours later, a massive cloud of superheated gas and heavy ash rushed down the slopes. This pyroclastic surge moved faster than the wind. It sealed the empty houses and the remaining people in a deep, sudden sleep. The vibrant Roman hub became a ghost in a single afternoon. Today, the empty streets still wait under the shadow of the great peak. The silence feels heavy, holding on to that final day. Just a few miles away, a different kind of stillness fell over Herculaneum. This wealthy seaside town faced the same mountain, but it met a different fate. Pompeii was slowly buried under a deep blanket of loose, light ash. Herculaneum was hit by a fast, boiling wave of volcanic gas and rock. This intense heat acted like a flash fire. It instantly turned organic things into hard carbon. The sudden baking process saved things that normally rot away. Wooden roof beams stayed strong. Heavy doors remained on their hinges. Even loaves of bread were frozen in time, perfectly black and solid. You can walk through the old villas today and see the dark, charred wood holding up the walls. It feels less like a ruin and more like a house where the owners just stepped out. The heat that ended the town also kept its most fragile details perfectly safe for 2,000 years. Long before the Roman world, another great peak shattered the sky. The Minoan settlement of Akrotiri sat on the Greek island of Thera. For centuries, this place was only a myth. Many people thought it was the true source of the Atlantis legend. It was a ghost story, whispered by sailors. Then, in 1967, an archaeologist named Spiridon Marinatos started digging. He wanted to prove that a massive eruption had wiped out the Minoan culture. He found much more than he expected. Under thick layers of white volcanic dust, a whole Bronze Age world was waiting. 3-story houses stood perfectly intact. Beautiful bright frescoes still clung to the walls. The ash had wrapped the island in a protective shell. The people had clearly seen the warning signs and fled in time. They left behind a quiet, empty maze of stone. It is a frozen moment from the deep, ancient past. Sometimes the earth does not warn you at all. The classical Greek center of Helike was a proud, wealthy place. It sat near the sparkling waters of the Corinthian Gulf. In the winter of 373 BC, the ground shook violently in the dark. A massive earthquake shattered the stone temples and cracked the wide roads. Before the dust could even settle, the sea pulled back. A towering wave crashed over the broken walls. In a single night, the entire place was wiped off the map. The loss was so sudden and total that ancient writers called it a punishment from the gods. For centuries, the exact location was a mystery. The ruins lay hidden under thick, dark mud. Modern digs finally found the old walls buried deep under the coastal plain. You can see the dark layers of silt that the great wave left behind. The sea took it, and the earth kept it. Not every sunken ruin was taken by a sudden wave. Off the southern coast of Greece, the waters hold a much slower secret. Pavlopetri is one of the oldest submerged sites in the world. It did not fall in a single terrible night. Instead, it slipped away over thousands of years. The sea level slowly crept higher, inch by inch. At the same time, the ground beneath the stone foundations gently sank. This tectonic shift moved at just a few millimeters each year. The people who lived there probably just moved their homes a little further inland every few generations. They watched the water claim their old streets. Today, you can float above the clear, shallow bay and look down. The faint outlines of ancient rooms and courtyards rest on the bright, sandy bottom. Sunlight dances across the sunken stones. It is a peaceful end for a place that simply let the water in. A similar slow surrender happened on the western coast of Italy. Baiae was once the most glamorous resort in the Roman world. Emperors built massive villas here by the warm sea. They soaked in heated pools and walked through grand marble halls. But the ground beneath the bay was restless. A slow volcanic process called bradyseism was at work. deep underground chambers of magma filled and emptied, causing the land to rise and fall like a slow breath. Over the centuries, the shoreline gently dipped downward. The sea crept into the grand dining rooms. The warm salt water washed over the bright mosaic floors. The rich and powerful simply packed up and moved away. Now, the grand columns stand quietly in the shallow, clear water. Fish swim through the old archways. The sea did not destroy the grand resort. It just claimed the beautiful rooms for itself, keeping them safe under the gentle waves. The water is not always so gentle. On the eastern edge of England, the North Sea is cold and hungry. Dunwich was once a booming medieval port. It was full of busy docks, grand churches, and wealthy merchants. But the sea was always tearing at the soft cliffs. The real blow came in the winter of 1286. A massive howling storm battered the coast for days. The violent waves pushed a giant wall of shingle and gravel across the harbour mouth. The port was completely blocked. Ships could no longer get in or out. The local economy died almost overnight. Without the harbour, the merchants left. The town was already empty when the sea finally came for the buildings. Year after year, the crumbling cliffs dropped the old stone walls into the grey water. The storm broke the spirit of the place long before the waves swallowed its empty streets. Just a bit further south, another English port faced the wrath of the sea. Old Winchelsea was a vital hub for the wine trade. Ships from France filled its busy docks. But the English Channel is a dangerous neighbour. In 1287, a massive coastal flood smashed into the low-lying streets. The water simply washed the prosperous town away. The destruction was so complete that King Edward I had to step in. He did not try to rebuild on the ruined mudflats. Instead, he ordered a brand new town to be built on a high, safe hill nearby. He laid out neat, straight streets for the survivors. The new town of Winchelsea still stands there today, looking out over the flat green marshes. When the tide goes out, you can stand on the beach and look at the empty sand. Somewhere out there, the old docks are still sleeping under the cold waves. The North Sea claimed many wealthy towns during those dark medieval winters. Rungholt was a rich trading hub on the North Frisian coast. It sat behind tall, earthen walls, safe from the daily tides. The people farmed the rich soil and traded across the cold waters. Then came a terrible night in 1362. A massive storm tide pushed the sea higher than anyone had ever seen. The dark water smashed through the earthen dikes. It poured into the fields and streets with terrifying speed. The entire settlement was swallowed in a single violent tide. For centuries, people thought the place was just a dark fairy tale. But the sea sometimes gives back what it takes. When the tide pulls far out today, the vast mudflats reveal their secrets. You can spot faint traces of old timber and broken pottery in the wet mud. The lost town still rests just below the surface. Sometimes, the sea is invited in on purpose. The drowned land of Sijftinge in the Netherlands is a vast, quiet salt marsh. It is full of winding tidal creeks and tall green reeds. But it was once a rich, dry farming region. The change happened during the All Saints' flood of 1584. The water did not break the walls on its own. Dutch soldiers were fighting a desperate war against Spanish troops. To stop the enemy from advancing, the soldiers made a heavy choice. They deliberately smashed the last intact sea dike. The cold water rushed in and swallowed the farms and roads. The land was sacrificed to save the rest of the country. The Spanish could not cross the new inland sea. The water never left. Today, the wind whispers through the tall grass. The birds nest where houses once stood. It is a beautiful, wild place, born from a desperate wartime choice. A different kind of intentional flood happened deep in the mountains of Italy. Fabristi Caragine was a quiet village built in the 13th century. It sat in a lush green valley, famous for its skilled iron workers. The stone houses stood strong for hundreds of years. But the modern world needed power. In 1947, engineers built a massive hydroelectric dam across the valley. The villagers had to pack up their lives and move away. As the dam closed, the river slowly backed up. The cold, deep blue water of Lake Vagli rose over the empty streets. It swallowed the church tower and the old stone bridge. The village was not destroyed, just hidden away. Every few decades, the dam is drained for maintenance. For a few short weeks, the old stone walls see the sun again. Then the water returns, and the quiet valley goes back to its deep, watery sleep. Water can ruin a place even when it does not wash the buildings away. The ancient site of Butrint sits on the coast of Albania. It was a thriving port for Greeks, Romans and Venetians. The stone walls saw centuries of rich trade and busy markets. But the landscape around the town was slowly changing. A new waterway called the Vivari Channel formed nearby. This shifted the delicate balance of Lake Butrint. The water levels changed, and the low fields around the town turned into stagnant swamps. These new marshes became a perfect home for mosquitoes. Malaria swept through the warm, damp air. The sickness made the beautiful stone streets impossible to live in. The merchants and families slowly packed up and fled to higher ground. The grand temples and theaters were left to the creeping vines. Today, the ruins sit quietly by the still water, shaded by thick green trees and heavy moss. A similar quiet tragedy emptied a beautiful town south of Rome. Ninfa was a busy medieval hub with tall stone towers and thick walls. It sat near a clear, slow-moving stream, but the lowlands around it grew damp and wild. Just like in Albania, malaria spread through the swampy air. At the same time, bitter feudal wars made the roads unsafe. The people grew tired of the sickness and the fighting. By the 14th century, they simply locked their doors and walked away. The empty streets sat quiet for hundreds of years. The roofs fell in, and the walls began to crumble. Then, a noble family decided to turn the ruins into a massive romantic garden. They planted climbing roses and thick green ivy over the broken stones. Today, bright flowers bloom in the empty church windows. The clear stream still flows past the old walls. It is a perfect, peaceful ghost. Sometimes the ground itself decides it is time for a place to end. The hilltop village of Krakow in southern Italy looks like a movie set. The stone houses cling tightly to a steep, dry ridge. It survived plagues and wars for over 1,000 years. But the real danger came from inside the town. In the 20th century, modern sewer and water pipes were installed. These new systems leaked deep into the unstable clay hill. The wet clay began to slip. It was not a sudden crash, but a slow, creeping slide. Deep cracks appeared in the stone walls. Doors would no longer close. The streets slowly warped and buckled. The ground was literally sliding out from under the houses. The government finally forced everyone to leave for their own safety. Now, the empty windows stare out over the dry valley. The whole town is frozen, in the middle of a slow fall. Long before modern pipes, the weather alone could force people to leave their homes. On the wild Orkney Islands in Scotland, the wind always blows cold. Skara Brae is a tiny, perfect Neolithic village built right into the earth. The stone beds and shelves are still intact. The people who lived here were clever and tough. They farmed the greenland and fished in the rough sea. But around 3200 BC, the climate began to change. The weather grew rapidly colder and wetter. The harsh winds made it nearly impossible to grow crops. The short summers were no longer enough to survive. The villagers did not flee from a sudden disaster. They just packed their most useful tools and walked away, looking for a warmer home. The blowing sand quickly filled the empty stone rooms. It kept the little houses perfectly safe under the grass for 5,000 years. A different kind of harsh reality emptied the fields of northern England. Warham Percy was a busy medieval farming village. Generations of families worked the soil and gathered in the small stone church. Many people think the plague wiped out these old towns. But the truth here was purely about money. By the 16th century, the wool trade was booming. The local landowner realized that sheep were much more profitable than crops. He did not need dozens of farmers to watch a flock of sheep. He only needed a few shepherds. So he made a cold economic choice. He evicted the last remaining families and tore down their timber houses. He turned the plowed fields into wide, grassy pastures. The people had to pack their carts and find new lives. Today, only the ruined church still stands. The faint, grassy outlines of the old houses are just bumps in the quiet green fields. Money and power can build a place just as quickly as they destroy it. Trelech was once one of the largest and busiest towns in medieval Wales. It did not grow slowly over time. A single powerful noble family built it up rapidly to fuel their wars. They needed massive amounts of iron for weapons and armor. The town was filled with hot forges and busy workers. The air was thick with dark smoke and the sound of hammers. But wars eventually end, and fortunes change. The noble family lost their power and their wealth. The demand for iron vanished almost overnight. Without the forges, there was no reason for the workers to stay. The town that had risen so fast simply emptied out. The wooden houses rotted away, and the forest crept back in. Now sheep graze quietly over the buried foundations. The great iron boom is just a whisper in the grass. A similar fate fell upon a busy mining camp in the hills of Tuscany. Rocca San Silvestro was built to pull silver and lead from the deep earth. The miners and their families lived in tight stone houses, huddled around a noble fortress. They worked hard in the dark shafts to make their lords rich. The town was loud, with the sounds of crushing rock and hot fires. But in the 14th century, a local war changed everything. The ruling family was defeated in battle. A new group of lords took over the region. These new rulers had no interest in the difficult, dirty work of mining. They stopped paying for the tools and the guards. Without the lords, money, the miners could not survive. They packed up their picks and walked down the mountain. The stone walls were left to the wind. The rich veins of silver still sleep quietly in the dark rock. Sometimes a place is not abandoned, but simply replaced. Hiddeby was once the most important Viking trade hub in northern Europe. It sat at the base of the Jutland Peninsula. Ships from all over the world brought silver, silk and spices to its busy wooden docks. The town was loud, rich, and crowded. But the shallow water near the docks began to fill with thick mud. Just across the narrow fjord, a new town called Schleswig was growing. Schleswig had deeper water and better access to the main trade routes. It was just a slightly better spot. The merchants are always practical people. They slowly moved their ships and their shops to the new shore. Hedeby was never conquered or burned. It just slowly faded away as everyone moved across the water. Today, you can stand by the quiet, reconstructed Viking houses and look across the calm water at the modern town that stole its life. A short move also sealed the fate of a massive fortress in England. Old Sarum was a crowded medieval city, built inside a massive, circular earthwork. It sat high on a steep, windy hill. The views were beautiful, but life up there was miserable. The wind howled constantly through the narrow streets. Water was incredibly scarce, and the wells often ran dry. To make matters worse, the local bishop and the rough castle soldiers hated each other. They argued constantly in the cramped space. Finally, around 1220, the bishop had enough. He decided to build a brand new cathedral down in the wide, flat valley. The townspeople happily followed him to the new site, which became the city of Salisbury. They even took the stones from their old houses to build the new ones. The great hilltop fortress was left to the grass. It is now a quiet, green ring in the sky. Moving to higher ground is usually about staying safe. The Byzantine wonder of Mistras was born from a need to hide. For centuries, the ancient city of Sparta sat in the wide, flat valley below. But in the 13th century, Frankish crusaders arrived in the region. They looked at the open valley and decided it was too hard to defend. They abandoned the old ancient site and looked up. They chose a steep, rocky mountain slope nearby to build their new fortress. The high walls offered perfect views of any approaching armies. Soon, a whole city grew up around the castle. Beautiful stone churches and grand palaces clung to the steep hillside. The city thrived because it was so hard to reach. It became a brilliant center of art and learning. Today, the steep stone paths are empty, but the painted churches still look out over the quiet valley where Sparta used to be. Sometimes, trying to escape the world is exactly what draws the world to you. In the lush green mountains of Ireland, a monk named St. Kevin wanted to be completely alone. He walked deep into a remote, isolated valley called Glendalough. He lived quietly in a tiny stone cave near a dark, still lake. He just wanted to pray and listen to the wind. But his reputation for deep holiness began to spread. People heard about the quiet man in the beautiful valley. Slowly, followers began to arrive. They built small stone huts near his cave. Over the centuries, this tiny retreat grew into a massive monastic city. It had tall stone towers, busy workshops, and hundreds of residents. The very isolation that Kevin sought is what made the place so special to others. The ruins still sit quietly between the two lakes, holding on to that original deep sense of perfect peace. Not every city is allowed to fade away on its own. High in the deep green mountains of Romania, the Dacian people built a grand capital. Sarmisegetusa Raetia was a proud city of massive stone sanctuaries and thick walls. It was the heart of a fierce, independent kingdom. But the Roman Empire did not like strong neighbors. The Emperor Trajan marched his massive legions up into the steep hills. After a brutal war, the Romans finally broke the city walls. They did not just occupy the town. They systematically tore the great stone temples apart. They wanted to erase the Dacian pride completely. To make their point clear, the Romans built their own new capital 40 kilometers away. They left the old sacred mountain to the wild forests. Today, the great circular stone blocks still sit in the quiet woods. They are a silent memory of a kingdom that refused to bow. Even the Romans eventually learned how it feels to lose a great city. Sirmium was once one of the 4 mighty capitals of the Roman Empire. It sat on the wide, flat plains of modern Serbia. Emperors were born in its grand palaces. Massive armies gathered outside its thick walls. It was a loud, vital heart of the ancient world. But empires grow old and tired. In the 6th century, a fierce group called the Avars surrounded the city. The siege dragged on for a long, bitter time. When the hungry city finally fell, the Roman world was too weak to fight back. The empire simply chose not to reclaim its old capital. The grand marble halls were left to the wind and the rain. The frontier cities slowly dissolved into the soft dirt of the Pannonian plain. Now, weathered brick foundations peek out from the quiet green fields under a pale sky. Sometimes a single loud moment ends a city's long story. The hilltop town of Stari Bar in Montenegro survived for centuries. It was a tough, beautiful place of stone walls and narrow streets. It lived through Roman, Venetian, and Ottoman rule. In 1878, the local Montenegrins finally fought to liberate their home from the Ottomans. They won the battle, but the victory came with a heavy price. Shortly after the fighting stopped, a terrible accident happened. A spark found its way into a massive gunpowder magazine stored in the town. The explosion was absolutely deafening. It ripped through the old stone houses and shattered the ancient walls. The damage was so total that the people gave up. They decided it was easier to build a brand new city down by the bright coast. The ruined hill was left to the olive trees. The broken stones still tumble down the quiet, sunny slope. The settlement of Skara Brae sits on the edge of the Orkney Islands. The people who built it knew the winter storms well. They did not just build houses. They built a way to survive the dark months together. Low, covered passageways link every single dwelling. These stone tunnels form a semi-subterranean village. You can walk from one hearth to another without ever stepping outside. The harsh wind blows right over the turf roofs. Down below, the air stays quiet and still. It feels like a warren made for safety. The stone walls are thick and carefully stacked. They hold the warmth of the fires inside. You can almost hear the soft hum of voices echoing down the narrow halls. The design is simple but deeply clever. It shows a community that chose to stay close. They built their world into the earth itself. Inside these sheltered homes, the rooms share a comforting rhythm. The builders crafted their furniture from the same pale stone. They did not use wood, which was rare on the islands. Instead, they shaped thick slabs of rock into everyday things. You can see sturdy box beds built right into the walls. Large, multi-shelved dressers stand proudly in the main living spaces. They look like they are waiting for bowls and tools to be put away. The craftsmanship is masterfully neat. The edges are worn smooth by years of daily touch. Sunk into the floor there are small, watertight tanks. These stone basins likely held fresh water. Some think they were used to keep live fish bait swimming until needed. The whole space feels incredibly domestic and familiar. It is a home built to last forever. The stone remembers the shape of the lives lived here. Far to the south, another ancient settlement took a different approach to the earth. The Iron Age village of Biskupin rests on wet, marshy ground. Building a town here required a brilliant kind of foresight. The creators laid down a massive grid of oak and pine logs. They built this timber foundation right at the edge of the water. It formed a solid, floating floor over the soft mud. The damp environment did something wonderful. It sealed the wood away from the air. This preserved the logs perfectly for thousands of years. You can still see the complex, interlocking joints today. The dark, wet timber looks almost fresh in the morning light. It is a masterpiece of early engineering. The whole town was balanced on this wooden raft. The people lived their lives suspended just above the marsh. The water protected the very thing it could have destroyed. Sometimes the water simply takes the city back. Off the southern coast of Greece, the ruins of Pavlopetri lie entirely underwater. It is one of the oldest submerged cities in the world. you have to swim down through the clear blue sea to find it. The ocean floor is mapped with a complex network of streets. At least 15 complete building foundations rest in the sand. You can trace the edges of ancient courtyards. Dozens of stone-lined schist graves are scattered among the houses. The layout is incredibly neat and geometric. It looks like a quiet neighborhood, waiting for the tide to go out. Fish dart through the open doorways now. The sunlight filters down in shifting, watery beams. It highlights the pale stones against the dark seabed. The sea has kept the city safe from modern plows and builders. It sleeps perfectly still beneath the waves. Modern tools have helped us see this drowned place more clearly. Digital scans peel back the water to reveal the true shape of the streets. These models show that the town was not just a simple fishing port. Right in the center stood a large rectangular hall. This structure is known as a megaron. It is a grand architectural feature, usually found in high-status palaces. Finding one here changes how we understand the whole site. It means this was a place of real wealth and power. Leaders likely gathered in that hall to make important choices. They traded goods across the sparkling sea. Now the megaron is just a ghost of light on a computer screen. But standing on the shore, you can imagine its painted walls. You can picture the tall wooden columns holding up the roof. The sea hides a capital of the ancient world. On a different island, volcanic ash preserved a city of stunning grace. The settlement of Akrotiri was buried long before Pompeii. The buildings here were not simple, single-room huts. Many of them reached 2 or even 3 stories high. They were built with a deep understanding of comfort and light. The architects designed large, south-facing windows for the main rooms. These openings captured the gentle winter sun. They let the warmth spill across the painted floors. The houses also featured highly advanced drainage systems. Clay pipes carried water away from the living spaces. The walls were built strong enough to support upper floors. You can still walk through the intact doorways today. The ash held the walls up like a gentle mold. It is easy to imagine looking out from a second-story window. You would see the busy streets and the blue sea beyond. One specific building here holds a very quiet, sacred space. It is known to researchers simply as Esisti 3. Inside there is a sunken rectangular room called a lustral basin. You walk down a short flight of stairs to reach the bottom. The walls and floor are coated in a layer of fine, smooth plaster. Beautiful, vibrant frescoes decorate the space around the basin. The art shows people gathering crocuses in rocky fields. Experts believe this sunken room was used for public purification rituals. It was a place to wash away the dust of the outside world. The air down in the basin feels cool and still. The soft light from above makes the painted colors glow. It is a deeply peaceful corner of the house. You can almost hear the soft splash of water. The room was built for quiet moments of reflection and care. Water hides another royal center deep in a Bulgarian valley. The ancient Thracian city of Seuthopolis now sits at the bottom of a massive reservoir. Before the dam was built, teams worked quickly to uncover its secrets. They found a grand palace and temple complex at the heart of the town. The stone foundations showed a place of immense wealth. In the king's own chamber, they made a stunning discovery. They found his heavy bronze armor resting in the dirt. Beside it lay a delicate, shining golden wreath. The contrast between the dark metal and the bright gold was striking. Now, millions of gallons of water press down on those empty rooms. The lake surface is calm and reflects the passing clouds. Boats glide right over the ancient throne room. The city is locked away in a dark, watery vault. It is a kingdom kept perfectly out of reach. High in the green mountains of Romania, a different kind of monument watches the sky. The Dacian capital of Sarmizegetusa Regia sits in a quiet forest clearing. At its center lies a massive, circular sanctuary. It is built from heavy blocks of grey andesite stone. Thick wooden posts once stood in a precise ring around the edge. This grand circle was not just a temple. It functioned as a highly complex solar calendar. The stones are aligned to track the slow turn of the seasons. They mark the exact days of the solstices and equinoxes. The builders watched the stars and mapped their paths. They tied the rhythm of their city to the movement of the heavens. Today, the grass grows thick between the ancient stones. The mountain air is crisp and smells of pine. The great stone dial still waits for the sun every morning. Beneath the grass of that sacred precinct, a hidden system kept the city alive. The mountain springs provided plenty of fresh, cold water. The engineers here built an intricate network of terracotta pipes to move it. These ceramic tubes were carefully shaped to interlock with one another. They formed a tight, leak-proof seal under the earth. The pipes channeled the spring water directly into the heart of the settlement. They fed public basins and private homes alike. It was a remarkably sophisticated water management system for its time. You can still see sections of the pipes half buried in the dirt. The baked clay is a warm reddish-brown against the dark soil. It shows how much care went into the unseen parts of the city. The water flowed silently beneath the feet of the priests and kings. It brought life down from the high, snowy peaks. Across the continent, a Celtic hill fort relied on a different kind of engineering. The city of Bebracte was protected by a massive, sweeping rampart. This wall was built using a design known as a murus gallicus. It was not just a simple pile of rocks. The builders layered earth, rough stone and thick timber beams together. The wood formed an internal skeleton that held the stone in place. This made the wall incredibly strong and flexible. It could absorb the impact of a battering ram without shattering. Julius Caesar himself wrote about this clever design in his war journals. He admired how the timber prevented the stone from crumbling. Today, the wood has rotted away, leaving square holes in the rock. The rampart looks like a natural grassy ridge blending into the forest. But beneath the moss, the genius of the ancient builders remains. The Romans built their own lasting monuments in stone. In the southern heat, the amphitheater of Pompeii stands quiet and empty. It was completed around the year 70 BC. That makes it the oldest surviving stone amphitheater in the entire Roman world. It was built more than a century before the famous Colosseum in Rome. The elliptical arena is vast and perfectly proportioned. Rows of stone seating rise up in a smooth, sweeping curve. You can walk through the dark, arched tunnels, where the crowds once pushed. The sunlight hits the pale stone and makes it glow against the blue sky. Grass grows softly in the center where the sand used to be. The scale of the building is breathtaking. It was designed to hold thousands of cheering voices. Now it only holds the sound of the wind. It is a massive sleeping bowl of history. Out on the streets of that same city, the daily commute required some careful footwork. The roads were paved with large, dark cobblestones, but they also served as an open drainage system. Rainwater, waste and sewage flowed freely down the center of the streets. To keep people clean, the city installed raised stepping stones at the intersections. These heavy blocks are called pondera. They allowed pedestrians to cross the road without ever touching the muck below. The stones are spaced perfectly for a comfortable stride. You can see deep, smooth ruts carved into the road between them. These grooves were worn down by the iron-rimmed wheels of countless passing carts. The carts had to be built to a standard width to pass through. It is a brilliant piece of urban planning. You can still step exactly where a baker stepped 2,000 years ago. A short distance away, another town holds a much more fragile treasure. The villa of the Papyri in Herculaneum was a place of immense wealth. It contains the only intact library ever found from the classical world. When the volcano erupted, a wave of superheated gas swept through the rooms. It instantly carbonized over 1,800 papyrus scrolls. The intense heat baked them into solid, blackened lumps. They were found still resting on their original wooden shelving. The shelves themselves had turned to charcoal. The scrolls look like pieces of burnt firewood. But inside, the ancient ink still clings to the delicate layers. For centuries, no one could read them without turning them to dust. Now, modern scanners are slowly peeling back the digital layers. The library is finally whispering its secrets. It is a miracle of preservation born from absolute destruction. The ash preserved grand libraries, but it also saved the smallest, quietest moments. In the house of the relief of Telephus, archaeologists found something deeply moving. It is a simple wooden baby's crib. The heat carbonized the wood, turning it entirely black. But the shape is perfectly, flawlessly preserved. You can clearly see the gentle curve of the rockers on the bottom. The side panels are smooth and carefully joined. It looks like it was just gently set down in the corner of the room. The crib is a poignant artifact of ordinary domestic life. It freezes a moment of tender care in absolute time. You can easily imagine a parent rocking it slowly in the evening light. The wood has survived for 2 millennia. It is a fragile reminder of the families who lived here. The city was not just monuments. It was a home. Further east, a different kind of art survives on a quiet forest floor. The ancient city of Butrint hides a stunning piece of early Christian devotion. Inside a ruined 4th century baptistry, the ground is covered by a complex mosaic. It is a sprawling masterpiece of tiny, colored stones. The design features 69 separate circular medallions. They are arranged in neat rings around the central stone font. Each medallion holds a distinct, careful picture. You can see peacocks, deer, and fish woven into the patterns. They are ancient symbols of life and faith. The colors are muted now, softened by time and earth. For most of the year, the mosaic is kept buried under sand to protect it. When it is uncovered, the floor looks like a vibrant, woven carpet. It is a beautiful, hidden prayer, laid out in stone. The forest keeps it safe and cool. In the cold north, defense was more important than decoration. The Viking trading city of Hedeby sat at a crucial point on the Jutland Peninsula. To protect their wealth, the people built a massive semicircular earthwork wall. This towering rampart wrapped around the entire settlement. It connected directly to the Dynavirke, a huge system of fortifications stretching across the land. The wall was made of packed earth, timber, and turf. It rose high above the wooden houses and the busy harbor. Standing on top of it, guards could see ships approaching from miles away. Today, the wooden palisades are gone. The wall is a smooth, green hill, curving through the landscape. Sheep graze quietly on the steep slopes. It looks like a natural ridge framing the dark water of the fjord. But its perfect, sweeping curve reveals the immense labor of the people who dug it. Across the sea in Ireland, monks built their own defense against those same Viking ships. The monastic city of Glendalough sits in a deep, quiet valley. Rising above the trees is a slender 30-meter-high stone structure. It is a classic Irish round tower, built in the 10th century. The tower served many purposes for the isolated community. It was a landmark for travelers finding their way through the mountains. It held a bell to call the monks to prayer. But most importantly, it was a secure storehouse and a place of refuge. The only door is placed high up on the wall. During a raid, the monks would climb a wooden ladder, pull it up and wait inside. The stone walls are thick and impossible to burn. The tower still points sharply at the grey sky. It is a monument to faith and survival. High on a steep hillside in Greece, a later empire left a sprawling footprint. The Palace of the Despots in Maestras is a rare architectural survivor. It is one of the few large-scale Byzantine secular buildings still standing. The complex is a fascinating mix of different styles and eras. It combines grand residential quarters with formal, echoing throne rooms. Tall, square towers built by Frankish knights anchor the corners of the palace. The stone walls are pierced by elegant, arched windows that look out over the valley. You can walk through the empty halls and feel the scale of the power here. The floors are worn smooth by centuries of silk slippers and heavy boots. The palace clings to the mountain like a natural rock formation. It is a beautiful, crumbling maze of power. The wind blows freely through the open arches now. Lower down that same mountain, faith took a much more intimate shape. The monastery of Peribleptos is built directly into the side of a rocky cliff. In fact, the chapel is built halfway into a natural cave. The builders did not try to smooth out the rough, curving rock walls. Instead, they painted their 14th century frescoes right onto the uneven stone. The faces of saints and angels follow the natural bumps and hollows of the cave. The soft light from the doorway makes the vibrant colors glow in the gloom. The gold halos seem to float in the dim air. It creates a uniquely atmospheric and deeply personal space. The rock feels like it is embracing the small church. It is a quiet, hidden pocket of devotion. You have to bow your head slightly to step inside. The silence in the cave is absolute and heavy. In the mountains of Montenegro, an abandoned town still reaches out for water. The ruined city of Stari Bar sits on a steep, rocky crag. To survive up there, the residents needed a steady supply from the distant springs. In the 17th century, Ottoman engineers solved the problem with a massive stone aqueduct. This remarkable structure marches proudly across the deep green valley below the town. Its powerful sweeping arches carry a narrow water channel high in the air. The rough-hewn stone blends perfectly with the rugged landscape. It is a brilliant feat of gravity and precise math. The aqueduct brought life to the dry stone streets for hundreds of years. Today, the water no longer flows, but the arches remain unbroken. They look like a bridge leading to nowhere. The structure stands as a quiet tribute to the engineers who conquered the valley. Sometimes a building tells the story of a slow, quiet decline. The ruined church of St. Martin stands in the empty village of Warham Percy. If you look closely at the stone walls, you can read the history of the town. The architecture shows clear, distinct phases of change. In prosperous times, the villagers built the church up, adding large, sweeping archways. They expanded the aisles to hold a growing flock. But as the population fell and wealth dried up, they could not maintain it. They filled in the grand arches with rougher, cheaper stonework. They made the entrances smaller, and the roof lower. The church physically shrank to fit the dying village. You can trace the seams in the mortar, where the old dreams were walled up. It is a deeply melancholy piece of masonry. The stones record the slow fading of a community. On the eastern coast of England, the sea took a much faster toll. The lost city of Dunwich was once a booming medieval port. Now almost all of it lies beneath the cold waves of the North Sea. One of the last major structures still visible is the ruin of Greyfriars Monastery. It is a 13th century Franciscan priory that now stands right on the cliff's edge. The romantic, crumbling stone arches frame the grey sky and the restless water. The monks who built it thought they were safely inland. Over the centuries, the soft cliffs simply washed away, taking the town with them. The priory walls are covered in ivy and weathered by the salt wind. It feels like the building is waiting for its turn to fall. You can stand by the ruins and listen to the waves below. The sea is always hungry here. In southern Italy, the earth moved in a different, slower way. The ghost town of Krakow sits on a steep, dramatic ridge. The houses here were slowly torn apart by deep, slow-motion landslides. The ground simply gave way beneath the foundations over many decades. But at the very highest point of the town, one structure refused to fall. A 12th century Norman tower stands tall and completely intact. Its solid, masterful stone construction has withstood the shifting earth. It stands like a solitary sentinel over the crumbling, empty houses below. The tower is a stark silhouette against the twilight sky. It watches over a town that had to flee from the ground itself. The narrow windows look out over the quiet, dusty valleys. The tower was built for war, but it ended up fighting the mountain. It is the last piece of the city holding on. Sometimes a lost place gets a brief moment in the sun again. In Tuscany, a 12th century village rests at the bottom of Lake Vagli. The town was flooded when a massive dam was built in the valley. But every few decades, the lake is drained for maintenance. When the water recedes, the stone church of San Teodoro slowly emerges from the mud. It appears almost fully intact, standing right in the center of the ghost village. The ruined bell tower reaches up toward the sky once more. The thick stone walls are stained dark from the deep water. You can walk the cracked mudflats and step right up to the heavy wooden doors. It is a surreal, fleeting reunion with a drowned world. The air smells of damp earth and old stone. Soon, the water will rise and swallow the church again. It goes back to sleep. The morning light in Pompeii once caught the dust of flour in the air. Over 30 bakeries have been found along these quiet stone streets. You can almost hear the steady rhythm of hands working the dough before dawn. In the ovens, searchers discovered burned loaves of bread. They are perfectly round and scored into 8 neat sections. These loaves still sit exactly where they were left on that final day. The bakers had prepared them for the morning rush. Now, they rest in glass cases, dark and perfectly kept. They look like stones carved by a very careful hand. This simple daily routine of baking bread connects us to the people who lived here. The ovens are cold now, but the shape of the bread remains. It is a quiet reminder of a city waking up to the smell of warm crust. The ash stopped time, but it saved these small, human moments. That same morning, Rush fed a lively street culture. Grabbing a quick, hot meal on the go was a normal part of daily life. The streets were lined with ancient fast food counters known as thermopolia. These small shops featured bright marble counters facing the sidewalks. Deep clay jars were set right into the stone tops. Vendors would fill these jars with hot stews and spiced wine. You can picture workers stopping by for a warm bowl on their way to the fields. The painted counters still show bright pictures of ducks and roosters. These murals told hungry customers what was cooking that day. The setup feels surprisingly modern. People stood at the counter, chatting and eating before moving on. The clay pots are empty now, swept clean by time. Yet the bright marble still catches the afternoon sun. It is easy to imagine the steam rising into the cool morning air. The walls around these food stands tell another story of local life. Painted messages cover the plaster in faded red and black letters. These writings are known as dipinti. They reveal the loud and lively rhythm of local elections. You can read political slogans asking for votes. Right next to them, you might find personal insults painted in the dark of night. The city was full of social rivalries and strong opinions. People used the public walls like a modern message board. A baker might endorse a friend for public office. A rival might paint over it with a sharp joke. The letters are faint now, worn down by wind and time. But they still hold the voices of a busy town. You can sense the energy of neighbors arguing and joking in the streets. The painted words freeze a moment of civic life. They show a community that cared deeply about its own small world. Just down the coast, Herculaneum moved at a slightly different pace. The daily rhythm here centered on the elegant public baths. These spaces were built for slow, quiet afternoons. Separate halls for men and women offered a place to wash and relax. Heat flowed gently beneath the smooth stone floors. The warm air rose through the rooms, creating a soft, heavy comfort. Bathing was not just a quick chore. It was a deep social ritual. Friends would meet here to talk, rest, and pass the time. The vaulted ceilings echoed with low voices and splashing water. Sunlight filtered through high windows, casting long beams across the shallow pools. You can still see the smooth stone benches where people sat for hours. The rooms feel calm and empty now, but the design still invites you to slow down. The baths were a shared retreat from the busy streets outside. After a long bath, residents often look for simple ways to pass the evening. Games of chance were a very popular pastime during these leisure hours. Searchers have found many small dice in the local taverns and homes. These tiny cubes were carefully carved from bone or wood. You can picture a group of friends sitting around a rough wooden table. The dice would rattle in a cup and spill across the boards. Small gaming pieces show how people spent their quiet moments. They played games in the warm light of oil lamps. The rules of these games are mostly lost to us now. But the feeling of a shared game is easy to understand. The dice rest quietly in museum cases today. Their worn edges show how many times they were thrown. They are small tokens of laughter and friendly bets. These tiny objects bring the ancient evenings back to life. Farther south in Italy, the abandoned town of Krakow sits high on a steep hill. Before the people left, the rhythm of the year was marked by grand religious festivals. The whole town would come together for these special days. Long processions would wind through the narrow, twisting streets. People carried statues and banners up the steep cobblestone paths. They walked slowly toward the Mother Church at the very top of the hill. You can imagine the sound of singing echoing off the stone walls. The air would be thick with incense and the smoke of candles. These walks were a deep shared ritual for the town. The steep climb made the journey feel like a true test of faith. Today the streets are silent and open to the sky. The old stone houses crumble slowly in the sun, but the paths still lead upward, worn smooth by centuries of careful footsteps. Across the Adriatic Sea, the ruined city of Butrint hides in a dense green forest. For centuries, this place was known as a major healing center. The sanctuary of Asclepius drew pilgrims from all over the ancient world. People traveled great distances to find a cure for their pains. They would sleep in the holy rooms, hoping for a healing dream. When they felt better, they left small stone gifts to say thank you. This steady flow of hopeful travelers sustained the city for hundreds of years. The daily rhythm was built around care, rest, and quiet faith. Priests and helpers tended to the sick in the shade of tall trees. The nearby stone theater hosted plays to lift the spirits of the guests. The sanctuary is quiet now, covered in soft moss and vines. But the feeling of peace still lingers in the damp earth. It remains a place of quiet rest. Beneath the clear waters off the coast of Greece lies Pavlopetri. This sunken Bronze Age town holds clues to a very busy past. Divers have found hundreds of clay loom weights scattered across the sea floor. These small, heavy cones tell us that making cloth was a major local industry. Over 3,000 years ago, weaving was a steady daily rhythm. Women likely spent many hours at tall wooden looms. They used these clay weights to pull the threads tight. You can imagine the rhythmic clack of the wood as the cloth grew longer. The work required great patience and skill. The finished textiles were probably traded with ships passing through the bay. Now the looms are long gone, rotted away by the sea. But the fired clay weights remain perfectly intact. They rest in the sand, silent markers of the hands that once shaped the threads. On a nearby island, the buried town of Akrotiri reveals a deep love for the natural world. The famous spring fresco was found painted on the walls of a home here. It shows dark swallows flying playfully among bright red lilies. The flowers bloom against a background of strange, colorful rocks. Experts call this the first pure landscape painting in art history. There are no people or gods in the picture. It is simply a joyful look at the beauty of spring. The artist clearly spent time watching how birds dart through the air. They noticed how lilies bend slightly in the wind. This painting shows a culture that took time to look closely at nature. The bright colors were hidden under volcanic ash for thousands of years. Now, the red petals and dark wings look as fresh as the day they were painted. It is a quiet window into an ancient spring. The people who painted those lilies lived in a surprisingly equal society. Unlike the grand cultures nearby, this town had no royal palace. There was no single great temple ruling over the streets. Instead, worship seems to have taken place quietly inside ordinary homes. Small shrines were built into the walls of the houses. Spiritual life was woven evenly through everyday household routines. People did not need a grand priest to tell them how to pray. They lit small lamps and left simple gifts in their own living rooms. This suggests a community that trusted in quiet, personal faith. The daily rhythm of prayer mixed easily with cooking and weaving. The houses were large and well built, with large windows to let in the light. The ash preserved these intimate spaces perfectly. You can still see the small niches where families paused to give thanks. It feels very peaceful and close to home. High on a hill in Greece, the ruined city of Mystras once hummed with the work of silk. The steep slopes around the town were planted with leafy mulberry trees. These trees were grown specifically to feed thousands of hungry silkworms. The slow, patient craft of spinning and weaving fine cloth was a steady local rhythm. It was one of the main trades that kept the town rich during its golden years. You can picture the careful hands pulling thin threads from the soft cocoons. The wooden looms would clatter softly in the warm afternoon air. The finished silk was bright, smooth, and highly prized. It brought wealth and beauty to the stone streets. Today the mulberry trees still grow wild on the quiet hillsides. The looms are gone, and the stone houses are empty. But the wind in the leaves still sounds like the rustle of fine, heavy silk. This wealth from silk allowed the mind to wander and explore. The city became a famous center of late Byzantine learning. A great thinker named Gemistus Pletho taught philosophy in these stone halls. He shared a new form of ancient Greek thought with his eager students. The daily rhythm here included long walks and deep talks about the stars and the soul. Students would sit in the cool shade, writing down his complex ideas. When the city finally fell, these scholars packed their books and fled west. They carried these old ideas all the way to Florence. Their teachings helped to spark the bright fire of the Italian Renaissance. The libraries here are empty now, with roofs open to the sky. But the light still pours through the arched windows. It is easy to imagine the quiet hum of voices debating the nature of the world. Deep in the forests of Romania, Sarmizegetusa Regia hides in the mist. The people here placed their grand sanctuaries in a specific, sacred zone. They built them high in the mountains, far above the daily noise of the town. This choice shows a culture that tied its faith directly to the wild landscape. The round stone temples align with the stars and the changing seasons. Priests would watch the sky from these high, quiet peaks. The daily rhythm of the town below was guided by the rituals performed up here. You can feel the deep silence of the old woods pressing in on the stones. The trees have grown tall around the ruined pillars. The air is cool, damp and smells of pine needles. Walking among the stones, you understand why they chose this spot. The mountain itself feels like a quiet, watchful presence. Further north in Poland, the wooden settlement of Biskupin tells a story of strict order. The town was built on a marshy island, with incredible care. Every house in the village was built to the exact same size and layout. They stood in long, neat rows along straight wooden streets. This uniform design suggests a highly organized and equal society. The daily routines and living standards were similar for all the families here. No one had a grand palace, and no one lived in a tiny hut. Neighbors shared the same amount of space and the same basic comforts. You can picture the morning smoke rising evenly from every roof. The rhythm of life was shared by the whole community. They worked together to build the strong wooden walls that protected them. The reconstructed longhouses still show this perfect, peaceful balance. It is a quiet vision of a shared, steady life. In the hills of France, the lost city of Bibracte was once a loud and busy place. It was a major center for craft and trade among the Gallic tribes. Searchers have found evidence of huge metalworking shops and mass-produced wine jars. The daily rhythm here was driven by the heat of the forge. Artisans spent their days minting shiny coins and crafting fine jewelry. You can imagine the constant ringing of hammers on hot metal. Traders brought heavy clay jars full of wine up the steep roads. The town was a hub of wealth, art, and loud voices. People came from miles around to buy the beautiful metal pins and rings. Today the forest has grown back over the old workshops. The forges are cold, and the hammers are silent. But the small, stylized coins they left behind still shine in museum lights. They are bright sparks from a busy past. In Portugal, the drowned village of Vilarinho de Furna lived by its own old rules. For centuries, the town operated under a strict system of self-rule. This communal way of life dated all the way back to the Visigothic era. A council of family heads, called the junta, made all the choices for the town. They met in the village square to plan the harvests and settle disputes. The daily rhythm was built on deep trust and shared labor. Everyone had a voice, and everyone had a job to do. The village worked like one large extended family. They shared the fields, the water, and the heavy work of the seasons. This quiet independence lasted until the valley was flooded for a dam. Now the stone walls rest quietly under the dark water. But the memory of the junta remains strong. It was a rare, peaceful way to live together. Up near the border of Denmark and Germany, Hedeby was a vital Viking town. It sat at the edge of a calm inlet, waiting for ships. The daily rhythms of life here were dictated by the arrival of boats. They came from across the known world, bringing strange and wonderful things. The marketplace was a loud, bustling mix of many different languages. Searchers have found pottery from the Rhineland and whetstones from Norway. They even found bright silver coins from the Arabic world. You can picture traders arguing over prices in the cold morning air. The smell of tar, wood smoke and salt water filled the town. People came here to trade furs for glass beads and fine silver. The town was a bridge between the wild north and the wealthy south. The water is quiet now, and the ships are gone. But the small treasures they dropped still tell their story. Just outside that busy market, the Viking rulers left a more permanent mark. They erected tall, heavy runestones in the green fields near the town. These stones were carved to honor their families and show their great power. Raising a stone was a very public ritual of political pride. It was a clear declaration, written in solid rock for everyone to see. The deep carvings were often painted in bright colors to catch the eye. Travelers walking toward the town would pass these massive markers. The stones told them exactly who was in charge of the wealthy port. You can trace the sharp, straight lines of the runes with your eyes. The wind and rain have worn the edges smooth over the centuries. But the heavy stones still stand firmly in the grass. They are quiet, stubborn ghosts of the kings who once ruled the trade routes. Further north in Norway, the town of Kaupang shows a quiet shift in faith. Searchers digging in the old workshops found two very different objects resting together. They discovered a small silver pendant, shaped like Thor's hammer. Right next to it was a stone mold used for casting Christian crosses. This simple find suggests a time when the old gods and the new faith lived side by side. The local artisans were practical people who catered to both beliefs. The daily rhythm of the workshop did not care about religious wars. A silversmith would pour hot metal for a pagan hunter in the morning. In the afternoon, he might cast a cross for a traveling monk. It was a peaceful, slow blending of two very different worlds. The silver hammer and the stone mold sit together in a glass case today. They show how gently a culture can change its mind. Across the sea in Ireland, the monastic city of Glendalough found peace in a deep valley. Life in this quiet place revolved entirely around prayer, study, and careful craft. The monks lived in small stone cells near the dark, still lakes. Their daily rhythm was set by the ringing of bells and the movement of the sun. In quiet rooms they produced beautiful, complex books like the Book of Glendalough. They worked by the soft light of candles and the grey daylight from small windows. You can imagine the scratch of a quill pen on smooth calfskin. They painted tiny bright knots of color on the edges of the pages. The work was slow, demanding, and deeply peaceful. The valley is still known for its heavy, restful silence. The stone towers still point up toward the passing clouds. The monks are gone, but the quiet focus of their work remains. On the windy islands of Scotland, Skara Brae offers a look at a much older life. The stone houses here are tucked snugly into the green earth. Inside each home, a square central hearth was the true focus of daily life. This fire pit was used for cooking meals, heating the room, and providing light. The glowing coals pushed back the dark, cold nights of the north. Evening gatherings around the fire were a vital social ritual for the families. You can picture people sitting on the stone beds, talking softly as the wind howled outside. The fire was the warm, beating heart of the small stone room. It was a place to share food, fix tools, and tell stories. The hearths are empty now, swept clean by the wind. But the square stones still sit exactly in the middle of the floor. They wait patiently for a fire that will never return. Living in that harsh place required a very clever kind of rhythm. The islands had almost no trees to provide wood for building. So the people learned to use whatever the wild sea brought to their shores. They used the massive bones of dead whales to frame their homes. They also gathered thick pieces of driftwood that washed up on the beaches. These strange materials became the strong rafters that held up their roofs. It was a daily rhythm of resourceful adaptation to a tough environment. You can imagine them walking the cold beaches after a heavy storm. They would drag the heavy, wet wood back to the stone houses. The whale bones arched over the rooms like the ribs of a great ship. This clever use of the sea's gifts kept the families safe and warm. The roofs are gone now, but the spirit of their hard work remains. Down in England, the empty fields of Warren Percy hide a slow, quiet change. This medieval village was home to generations of simple farmers. By looking at the old cemetery, experts learned how the daily meals changed over time. For many years, the villagers ate a rich diet of meat and dairy. But over the centuries, their food shifted to mostly bread and simple grains. This change reflects the slow turning of the local farming economy. As the land was used differently, the daily rhythm of the kitchen had to adapt. You can imagine the dinner tables changing from roasted meats to thick bowls of porridge. The people worked just as hard, but their rewards grew smaller. The green grass now covers the places where these families lived and died. The village is just a series of bumps in a quiet sheep pasture. But the bones still tell the story of their daily bread. Not far away, the lost town of Old Winchelsea had a much richer taste. This busy port was famous for its massive wine trade with Gascony. Ships arrived constantly, bringing heavy wooden barrels of fine red claret. The town grew rich on this steady flow of dark wine. Over 700 houses and 50 busy inns were built with this wealth. The daily rhythm of the docks was loud, with sailors rolling barrels up the streets. You can picture the taverns full of merchants drinking and making deals. The smell of spilled wine and sea salt hung in the damp air. The town built huge vaulted stone cellars to store the precious cargo. The old town was eventually lost to the angry sea. But the massive stone cellars still exist beneath the modern streets. They are dark, empty and echo, with the memory of a very wealthy past. Further up the coast, the sea took the great city of Dunwich piece by piece. As the cliffs crumbled, the town slowly fell into the cold North Sea. For centuries after the city was lost, a strange local legend remained. Local fishermen would tell tales of hearing the old church bells ringing. They said the sounds came from deep beneath the waves during heavy storms. The rhythm of the tides seemed to pull the music from the drowned towers. You can imagine standing on the dark beach, listening to the wind. The crashing waves might easily sound like the deep tolling of bronze bells. It was a way for the locals to remember the grand city they had lost. The water is dark and rough, hiding the old streets completely. But the story of the bells keeps the memory of the town alive. The sea took the stones, but it left the song. Far up in the Orkney Islands, the wind sweeps over a green bay. Here lies Skara Brae. People often call it the Scottish Pompeii. It is a village of stone houses, perfectly kept in the earth. But that name misses the true scale of time. This place is vastly older than the famous Roman town. It was built long before the first stones were moved at Stonehenge. It was thriving hundreds of years before the great pyramids of Giza rose from the sand. You can walk past the low stone walls today. You can see the hearths where families sat together. The sea crashes against the shore just as it did then. The people who lived here left no written words. They just left their homes. The stone beds and shelves still wait in the quiet dark. It feels as if the owners simply stepped out for a walk. The builders of those ancient stone houses were deeply practical. They did not just stack rocks to block the wind. They designed a clever way to keep their homes clean. A long drain runs right underneath the village floor. It is lined with flat stones to guide the water away. Some of the homes even had small stone cubicles built over this channel. Experts believe these were early toilets. It is a primitive form of indoor plumbing. This was thousands of years before modern pipes existed. You can still see the stone channels today. They trace a neat line beneath the old passageways. The design shows a quiet care for daily life. These people wanted comfort in a harsh place. They understood how to work with water and gravity. The cold rain washed the drains clean. The village stayed dry and warm, while the northern storms blew outside. Across the North Sea, the coast of Norway hides its own secrets. For over a century, experts searched for a lost Viking town. They were looking for a place called Kaupan. Old records spoke of it as a busy port. But the search was tricky, for a very simple reason. The name itself just means marketplace in Old Norse. It was not a special title at all. It was a generic word used for many trading spots. Finding the right one took immense patience. They finally found the true site near the Oslofjord. Today the water laps gently against the rocky shore. The great ships are long gone. The busy market is just a quiet stretch of grass. You can stand there and listen to the wind. It is hard to imagine the noise of traders and sailors. The earth has quietly taken the market back. Further south, another Viking trading post sat near the border of Denmark. This was Hedeby. It was a loud and crowded place in the 10th century. People from all over the world came here to buy and sell. But the locals had their own strict ways. A traveling missionary named Rimbert wrote about his time there. He complained bitterly about the townspeople. They were proud pagans who did not want to hear his sermons. To keep Christian preachers away, they used a very specific trick. They carved small wooden figures of dogs. Then they hung these little dogs right outside their front doors. It was a clear warning to stay away. You can almost picture the wooden dogs swinging in the cold breeze. They were small, but fierce protectors of the old gods. The town is just a quiet green mound now. The wooden dogs have long since rotted away. In the rolling hills of Yorkshire, a different kind of village faded away. Warham Percy is the most studied lost medieval town in Britain. Experts dug in the soil here for more than 40 years. But you will not see grand stone ruins today. The vanished houses survive only as gentle green humps in the grass. There are soft hollows where the old roads used to run. The entire village has been reduced to a quiet pattern of earthworks. The sheep graze peacefully over the old property lines. Over time, the experts learned to read these grassy bumps like a map. They could see where the baker lived. They could trace the path to the ruined church. The church still stands alone in the valley. The rest of the town simply melted back into the earth. It is a very peaceful kind of ghost town. On the eastern coast of England, the sea is always hungry. The town of Dunwich was once a major port. It was full of busy streets and grand stone churches. But the soft cliffs slowly crumbled into the waves. Year after year, the water took another piece of the town. The last of its many churches was named All Saints. It teetered on the very edge of the cliff for a long time. People watched it slowly lose its footing. Finally, the last section gave way. The final tower arch fell into the cold sea in November of 1919. People stood on the beach and took photographs of the end. Now, the water covers the old town completely. Fishermen say you can sometimes hear the church bells ringing under the waves. But that is just a story. The real town is simply gone, swallowed by the tide. The sea does not always claim lost cities. Sometimes the land itself does the hiding. The ancient Greek city of Hellac vanished after a massive earthquake. For a long time people thought it was at the bottom of the ocean. Marine experts spent years scanning the deep water. They found nothing but empty sand. The real answer was much closer to home. The city was rediscovered in 2001. Researchers finally looked in an inland lagoon. Centuries of river silt had washed down from the mountains. The mud completely buried the old streets. The site is now sitting under dry land. You can walk right over the ancient roofs without knowing it. The sea had actually moved further away over the years. The lost city was just sleeping under the dirt. It is a strange trick of geography. The earth simply folded over the past. Not far away, the water did keep its prize. Pavlopetri is the oldest known fully submerged city in the world. It rests quietly beneath the clear blue waves off the coast. The town plan is still completely intact. You can trace the straight lines of the ancient streets. You can see the stone foundations of large buildings. There are even old tombs carved into the rock. Today, experts do not need to drain the water to study it. They use digital tools to map the site from above. Divers swim through the old neighborhoods with modern scanners. They build perfect three-dimensional models of the sunken streets. The fish swim through the open doorways. The sunlight dances on the stone floors. It is a very peaceful place now. The water protects the ruins from the wind and the rain. The city just rests in a cool, blue silence. The way this underwater town was found is almost an accident. It was first spotted in 1967. An ocean expert named Nicholas Fleming was simply swimming in the area. He wore a basic mask and a snorkel. He looked down through the clear water and saw strange shapes. At first, he thought they were just natural rock formations, The sea can carve stones into very straight lines. But as he kept swimming, the patterns became too perfect. He saw right angles and clear street grids. He realized he was floating right above a lost world. It is amazing to think about that moment. He was just taking a quiet swim on a sunny day. He ended up finding a city that had been missing for thousands of years. The ruins had been waiting there patiently. They were just hiding in plain sight beneath the gentle waves. On the island of Santorini, another ancient town met a sudden end. A massive volcano buried the city of Akrotiri in deep ash. The ruins are huge and complex. The buildings stand several stories high. The walls are covered in bright, beautiful paintings. But there is something very strange about this place. Despite the sudden destruction, the streets are completely empty. No human remains have ever been found in the dug-up areas. There are no bodies trapped in the ash. This means the entire population likely saw the warning signs. They had enough time to pack their things and leave. They successfully escaped before the final eruption tore the island apart. You can walk through the quiet streets today. The tall stone walls cast long shadows in the afternoon sun. It feels like a town that is just waiting for its people to come back home. Because the people fled in time, they took their valuables with them. The ash mostly covered empty rooms and heavy clay pots. But they did leave one tiny treasure behind. It is one of the only precious objects ever found here. Experts uncovered a small, solid gold figure of a wild ibex. It is just a few inches tall. The little golden goat was carefully tucked inside a plain wooden box. It was hidden away in a dark corner. We do not know why it was left behind. Perhaps it was forgotten in the rush to the boats. The gold still shines brightly after thousands of years in the dark. It is a rare glimpse of the fine work the local artists could do. The little ibex rests quietly in a museum now. It is a tiny, perfect memory of a city that vanished in a cloud of smoke. A different volcano caught the people of Pompeii completely by surprise. The ash fell fast, and buried the Roman city in a single day. The thick dirt kept the town perfectly frozen in time. You can still see the small details of daily life. At the entrance to one home, there is a famous floor mosaic. It sits right inside the house of the tragic poet. The small black and white tiles show a large dog on a leash. Below the dog, the Latin words say cave, canem. It simply means, beware of the dog. It is one of the oldest known warning signs in the world. The tiles are still bright and clear. You can imagine a real dog barking in that hallway long ago. The owner just wanted to keep strangers away. Now, people travel from all over the world to look at his front door. The streets of that frozen city were once full of strong smells. The town was a major center for making a sauce called garum. It was a very pungent liquid made from fermented fish. The Romans loved it, and poured it on almost everything they ate. One local merchant grew incredibly rich from this smelly business. His name was Umbricius Scaurus. He made so much money that he built a very grand house. He was so proud of his work that he decorated his floors with it. His mosaics show the exact clay jars his sauce was sold in. The pictures even include his personal brand name. It is an ancient form of advertising carved right into the stone. You can see the pride he took in his messy trade. The fish sauce is long gone, but his proud little jars still sit quietly on the dusty floor. Just down the coast, the town of Herculaneum faced a different fate. The volcano hit this city with a massive wave of extreme heat. The mud and ash sealed the town much tighter than its famous neighbor. This tight seal saved things that usually rot away. Experts found a wooden clothes press inside one of the shops. It looks remarkably like a modern piece of furniture. The large wooden screw mechanism is still fully intact. The heavy frame stands exactly as it did on that final day. It is a totally unique survival of complex Roman woodworking. Wood almost never lasts this long in the damp earth, but the hot mud baked it into a hard, dark shape. You can see the smooth handles where the worker turned the press. It is a quiet reminder of the simple chores that filled the morning before the sky turned dark. That same intense heat created another incredible scientific fluke. There was a grand villa in the town with a large library. The shelves were full of rolled-up papyrus scrolls. When the hot gas hit the room, it was brief and extreme. The heat was so high that it turned the paper into solid carbon. But there was no oxygen to let the scrolls catch fire. They did not burn to ash. They just turned into black, hard lumps. Their rolled-up forms were perfectly saved in the dark mud. For centuries, no one could open them without breaking the fragile flakes. Now, scientists are using powerful X-rays to read the hidden ink. They can see the letters resting inside the tight layers. The words have been waiting in the dark for 2,000 years. The heat that destroyed the town is the exact thing that saved its books. In the green hills of France, another ancient place was simply forgotten. The old Gallic city of Bibracte sat high on a hill called Montbeuvray. After the people left, the forest slowly swallowed the stone walls. The site was completely lost for nearly 2,000 years. the trees grew thick and tall over the old streets. The discovery of the town did not start with experts. It started with 19th-century wine merchants. They traveled through the local farms to buy grapes. They noticed that the farmers kept finding strange old coins in the dirt. The heavy rains would wash the ancient money out of the soil. The merchants realized the coins came from the top of the big hill. They followed the trail of money up into the quiet woods. The trees were hiding a massive ancient capital. The forest had kept the secret perfectly safe. A similar kind of treasure was hidden in southern Germany. The ancient Celtic settlement of Manching was a very busy place. But the people abandoned it quickly when danger approached. Just before they left, someone buried a heavy pouch in the dirt. It stayed hidden until 1999. Experts found a stunning pile of 483 gold coins. These are known as rainbow cups because of their strange, curved shape. They look like tiny golden bowls. The metal gleams softly in the light. The abstract designs on the gold are beautiful and strange. The owner likely buried them for safekeeping. They planned to come back when the trouble passed. But they never returned to dig up their wealth. The gold sat in the dark earth, while centuries rolled by above. It is a quiet, shining tragedy left behind in the cold soil. Deep in the mountains of Romania, a different mystery waits in the grass. The old Dacian capital of Sumedatusa Regia is full of strange stone circles. The ruins sit quietly under the tall, dark trees. One of the most puzzling objects here is a large rock carving. It is a flat disc made of heavy andesite stone. People call it the sun because of its shape. It is covered in very careful, detailed carvings. The lines radiate out from a deep center bowl, but no one knows what it was actually used for. There is nothing else like it in the Roman or Greek world. It has no clear parallel anywhere in history. Its true purpose remains a total mystery. You can stand beside it and trace the cold lines with your eyes. The stone keeps its secrets well. The forest wind offers no answers at all. Far to the south, the ruined city of Butrint sits in a quiet marsh. The water reflects the old stone walls and the green trees. The town saw many different empires come and go. Each new group left their mark on the streets. Sometimes, those marks were violent. Experts found a beautiful statue of a goddess named Dea here. But she was not standing on a pedestal. Her serene marble head had been deliberately knocked off. Someone threw the heavy stone face down into a deep well. Experts believe early Christians did this to destroy the old pagan idols. They wanted to erase the old gods from the town. The cool water at the bottom of the well protected the face. The marble stayed smooth and clean in the dark. The goddess simply slept in the water, while the city above her slowly fell apart. On the edge of the Black Sea, a rocky peninsula holds a very old town. Today, we call this beautiful place Nessebar. The narrow streets are full of old wooden houses and ruined churches. But the city has carried many names over the long centuries. The ancient Greeks knew it as Mesembria. The name holds a very old story in its syllables. According to local legend, it honors the man who first built a home here. His name was Melsus. The second part of the word comes from the Old Thracian language. The word Bria simply means town. So the grand city was just called the town of Melsus. It is a very humble start for such a famous port. The old stones still remember that first builder. The sea breeze blows through the ruins just as it did when Melsus first stood on the shore. Across the mountains in Montenegro, the ruined town of Staribar rests on a cliff. The old stone walls are empty and quiet now. The medieval houses are slowly crumbling into the steep valley. But there is still life on this rocky hill. The town is home to one of the oldest living things in Europe. A massive olive tree grows just outside the old gates. Locals call it the Stara Maslina. The thick, twisted trunk is over 2,000 years old. It was already an ancient tree when the medieval town was at its peak. It watched the stone walls go up. It watched the people leave. It is still growing green leaves today. You can stand under its wide branches and feel the deep shade. The tree outlived the entire city. It just keeps quietly making olives year after year in the warm sun. In the dry hills of southern Italy, another empty town stands against the sky. The village of Krakow was built on a very steep cliff. The people had to leave when the ground started to slide away. The empty houses looked like pale teeth on the ridge. But the town did not stay completely lonely. The dramatic ruins caught the eye of movie directors. The empty streets became a very popular film set. The dusty stone walls were used to show ancient Jerusalem in famous movies. The quiet alleys even hosted a loud car chase for a James Bond film. It is strange to think of bright movie lights in these sad, empty rooms. The film crews bring sudden noise and action for a few weeks. Then they pack up their cameras and leave. The town goes right back to its deep, silent sleep on the hill. Further north in Tuscany, a different kind of work left a hidden mark. The medieval village of Rocca San Silvestro was built for a single purpose. It was a town of miners who dug deep into the rocky hills. They spent their days pulling copper and silver from the dark earth. but the rocks held a silent danger. Experts studied the bones of the people who lived and died here. They found an unusually high rate of lead poisoning in the skeletons. The daily dust from the mines slowly settled into their bodies. It was the hidden health cost of their hard profession. They likely did not know what was making them sick. They just kept working in the dim light. The ruined stone houses still sit near the old mine shafts. The wind blows through the empty windows. The dangerous rocks are finally quiet and still. Not far away, another Italian village has a very strange schedule. Fabbriche di Carigine is not lost forever in the dirt. It actually reappears on a regular basis. The stone houses sit at the bottom of a large artificial lake. The water usually hides the old roofs completely, but the local dam needs maintenance roughly once every 10 years. When the workers drain the lake, the ghost town slowly rises into the air. The wet stone buildings stand in the muddy valley for a few weeks. People can walk down and explore the empty streets. The walls are covered in dried mud and watermarks. It is a surreal sight in the bright afternoon sun. Then the repairs are finished. The cold water slowly fills the valley again. The town sinks back into the dark blue depths. It waits patiently for the next decade to pass. A similar magic happens in the mountains of Portugal. The old village of Vilarinho de Fona was also swallowed by a modern dam. When the summer brings long dry spells, the water level drops. The tops of the old stone walls slowly break the surface. But they do not look like normal ruins. The stones are completely covered in a very specific type of moss. This thick plant only grows deep underwater. It gives the ruined houses a strange fuzzy green appearance. The walls look soft and alive in the sunlight. The green moss clings tightly to the old granite blocks. It is as if the river grew a thick blanket over the town. When the autumn rains return, the water rises again. The fuzzy green walls slip quietly back under the surface. The fish swim through the soft green rooms until the next dry summer comes. Our walk through lost cities of Europe is coming to an end. Wherever you've drifted to, you don't need to come back. There's nothing more to listen for tonight. Sleep well.